On behalf of each member of the family of tourist transport professionals in Morocco, I extend my great appreciation and respect to His Majesty, King Mohammed VI. May Allah bless him with his victory. I would like to point out that we are looking forward to finding appropriate solutions for all concerned parties. If they are discussed at the dialogue table seriously and honestly, and if the duties will not be passed from one ministry to another, as such actions are outdated. In this context, let us talk about an issue related to the core of the services sector in Morocco, which constitutes 7 to 10% of Morocco's GDP. 500,000 people work in this sector as a minimum, according to the statements of the Ministry of Tourism itself. And as known that most of tourist transport contractors were paying their loans continuously and did not stop performing until after stopping work due to preventive restrictions. And how not? These restrictions and the amendment laws established by government officials caused a decrease in the professional activity of these contracting companies by more than 95%, especially since most of these companies were based mainly on loans. From this point of view, all the revenues were going to banks, taxes, rent, wages, employees and other expenses, waiting for the end of the term to benefit of their fatigue finally. Unless the state closed the only way to achieve these, leaving more than 500,000 employees floundering between the collapse of the misery of the years and daily needs like eating, housing, schooling and medicine, etc. A large segment of Moroccans was left to face their fate without a helper or even a listener. Are we not Moroccans? If we are, then I would like to point out that these basic demands have become axioms granted in the 21st century and do not require an open sit-in. So what about the officials? Are we still in need of an open sit-in for the right to a decent life? Do we still like to turn around and escape from the facts around us and hide behind flimsy reasons? We are not standing here to improve our economic situation, which is not something we need to do as present. Rather, we are steadfast fighters. We beg those who have the decisions to help tens of thousands of families who are on the verge of falling from the abyss, even they fall, so to speak. We know that the crisis that the sector is going through today is the result of a force majeure imposed by the pandemic. But the solution lies in determination to conclude a cooperative alliance between the government institutions responsible for this sector and then put forward a set of solutions that would mitigate the severity of the pandemic on the tourism transport professionals. Talking about alliances, cooperation, and the establishment of a strong government based on dialogue, honesty, and understanding for a better Morocco was neither our words nor our actions. Rather, this is the speech on which the electoral program of the current government was built. And it was also done with the King's blessing, may God bless him. How about you, the Ministries of Tourism, Finance, Transport and Logistics? Did you leave your program, or the tourist transport workers are not included in such a program? We, the tourism transport professionals, do not speak to you in a language from outside the planet, or even talk outside common sense. If you think in good conscience about the fate of 500,000 people, you will inevitably find solutions. We are no longer able to explain the axioms. Therefore, we are still hand in hand, renewing the demand for what was stated in the statement issued on February 18, 2022, which is as follows: Mr. Prime Ministers, arbitration for reason and conscience and attention to this afflicted sector, which successive governments have found nothing but estrangement and denial of favor. And its demand to open the door for dialogue and take the tourist transport file seriously. Formulate an emergency program for the tourism transport sector, taking into account its peculiarities from the rest of the other sectors. The Minister of Finance has to take the necessary urgent decisions to mitigate the repercussions of the crisis, for most of which is exempting the sector's vehicles from tax on the axle for the pandemic years, as long as the vehicles have not used the road and have not made profits since the beginning of 2020. Coordinate insurance price while reducing the number of passengers and bearing social expenses for workers instead of contracting from 2020 to 2022. The Ministry of Transport and Logistics has to fulfill its promises to the tourism transport sector and assumes its responsibilities toward it by allocating direct support to reduce losses and assisting contractors to resume their activities, and giving the sector the status it deserves and required by the fateful moment is passing through. Finally, the National Federation of Tourist Transport in Morocco announces that it is the process of taking several other struggle steps, which it will announce in the coming days. It also affirms its full needs to solve the problems at the dialogue table, as it sees good intentions and seriousness to solve the sector's problems and crises.